Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be talking about fantasy football defenses. We've got Baskin, Brad, and Halbert back on the channel today. Please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow. Share this video with your friends, and I hope you enjoy the video. Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be talking about defenses and special teams for fantasy. Let's get right into it. So these are defenses to put on your radar in 2020. Let's start with Brad and the Colts.
All right. So the Colts defense last year was pretty average. They had good games, but they also had games where they were kind of, against better teams and not as good. In a position where it's a boom or bust game, I think the Colts defense is great to have with Darius Leonard and the addition of DeForest Buckner, and just the rest being not as bad or not bad in general. I think if they're against a bad team, like the Bears, I guess, would be a bad offense, start them immediately. And I think that's a good,
Yeah, I mean, the Colts were a top 10 defense and special teams in 2018, so maybe they can continue past success. That's why I would pick them. I like the Colts this year, so I agree with what Brad said.
Great. Let's move on to Baskin's pick here with none other than the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay, fly, Eagles, fly. I picked the Eagles defense for one huge reason, and that's their secondary. I mean, it was god-awful last year. I mean, if Alex doesn't know that, then he's a delusional Eagles fan. They picked up Darius Slay, Nicole Roby-Coleman, and I think that'll really shore up that secondary that was pretty garbage last year. I think they're moving Jalen Mills to safety, and they did lose Malcolm Jenkins, but I think he was getting a little older there. His production was starting to dip from his former Pro Bowl self. So I like the Eagles this year as a surprise defense in fantasy. I mean, they weren't very good last year. I think I picked them up because they were playing like teams like the Jets, and they had an easy schedule down the stretch last year. But I think the Eagles are a good sleeper defense this year in fantasy.
I agree with this 100%. I feel like last year they sort of lost all their credit because they were giving up a ton of points to terrible offenses, and I feel like getting Darius Slay and also the tackle from the Hargrave, I think
Javon Hargrave.
Yeah, Javon Hargrave, that helps a lot, and I just feel like they're not going to be like one of the best defenses in the NFL. I feel like they have the potential to be top 12 pot maybe, and also they play the Redskins and the Giants twice a year, which those are very good games to have them.
Yeah, I think Fletcher Cox, he could also have a bounce back season. He was a little iffy, and Brandon Graham too. So I do like this pick a lot.
I agree with you on the Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox points there. So now let's move to the Chargers. Halbert, take it away.
Okay. So if you look at this at first, you might be thinking this is terrible, but I feel like no one really talks about the Chargers, and I think one big reason is because they have the Chiefs in their division. But I feel like Joey Bosa, I think he has the potential to be top 3 for Defensive Player of the Year. I feel like people act like their team you should never have. I think they're good in some cases. They don't have super high potential, but I think they're a solid top 15 maybe.
I think this year just don't pick them up. I mean, the Chargers defense is going to be on the field for most of the game because I don't think Justin Herbert or Tyrod Taylor is going to muster up that much offense. So I would not pick them this year.
I think the only time you pick them up is when they play the Raiders, because I think they, will have a good game against them.
I think that the Chargers could have a good defense this year. I mean, I like Melvin Ingram. I like Bosa. That pass rush is obviously elite. They have Derwin James back. They picked up Chris Harris Jr. from the Broncos. That was a big move to get another corner there. So I like the Chargers this year. I don't think you should maybe draft them as your defense, but maybe on a week-to-week basis, if you're kind of just going through defenses and looking at matchups, the Chargers could be a good move. So now I had to say it, the Miami Dolphins, possibly the most improved defense in the NFL from last season. Look at what they did in the offseason. Now they have perhaps the best secondary in the league. Can I say that? Maybe their safeties aren't there, but they have a top secondary.
I wouldn't say it's best.
Okay, maybe it might not be the best, but they have a top secondary in the league.
A little biased.
Byron Jones, Xavier Howard. as well as they have Nick Needham, Noah Igbenogany, the first-round pick,
That was not a good
31st
pick.
overall. Plus, they have Bobby McCain as well as Eric Rowe.
Not
third-round pick,
not very good safeties.
and third-round pick Brandon Jones. But the linebackers are really what I'm excited about with Jerome Baker, Raekwon McMillan, as well as Kyle Van Noy. I'm just really excited, especially as a Dolphins fan, to see this Dolphins unit. But perhaps the place where they improved the most was the defensive line. They picked up Emmanuel Ogbah, who in 10 games last season had 5.5 sacks. Those numbers could increase. He could probably have an 8-sack season this year if he keeps on that trend. And Shaq Lawson was a good pickup. So I think with all that, look for the Dolphins. Maybe not to be you might not draft them as your defense, but same with the Chargers. I think they could just be a good asset to have or pick them up based on their schedule.
I think Dolphins defense is definitely going to be better than last year. I think their offense, on the other hand, I think it's going to be very similar to Cleveland Browns like situation where, I mean, a more talent infusion doesn't always make win success. So I could see a very similar 6-10 like record for the Dolphins. What did they go 6-10, 5-11 or something last year? I think their record maybe 1+ win 6-10 this year, but I think that's where I see the Dolphins falling this year. So I think a decent defense to pick up like week by week in fantasy, but that is it.
Great, then. Let's move on to the defenses that we don't like. Starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Brad, take it away for us.
All right. So the years of Jacksonville are long behind when they went to the championship. Everybody from that defense besides, I think, Miles Jack and then I think a D lineman.
Yannick Ngakoue.
Was he there? Oh, yeah, he was. Okay. So Yannick Ngakoue and Miles Jack, they're the only ones there. And Yannick Ngakoue won't even play because he's probably going to hold out for a trade because he doesn't even want the extension. He just wants to get out of there. Yeah. And for good reason. They have nobody. They traded Jalen Ramsey. They traded A.J. Boye. Traded Calais Campbell. There's nobody on this defense that plays like they should, or at least plays like they did when they were good. I just don't see anybody picking up this defense ever.
I really like that analysis there. I think you couldn't have said it any better. I mean, they just don't have a lot of talent there. I don't think they're going to be able to keep a lot of defenses in, especially in that really high-powered AFC South. I mean, if you look at Derrick Henry down there, if you look at Deshaun Watson, and obviously Phillip Rivers, T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman up there in Indy. So I think they're going to have to play against good competition, and I don't think they have good players on their roster to defend. Going on to the Vikings now.
Okay. So the Minnesota Vikings, this seems like a surprise, but they did lose some pieces. They lost, I think, Everson Griffin, Linval Joseph. Their defense last year had a decent season, but they definitely lost some players. And I think the Vikings will definitely have some regression this year. I mean, Eric Kendricks, I think he's more of a one-year player. Harrison Smith is starting to get up there in age. And they also lost all 3 of their starting corners, which is huge. I mean, half of them went to the Bengals, and I forgot where the other one went, but I mean, Xavier Rhodes went to the Colts, but he wasn't that good last year. But the Vikings, their defense, I think it will take a huge step back this year. And I think the Vikings, maybe they're a borderline playoff team, but I would not take their defense this year in fantasy at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. They lost too much, and I just think they're going to struggle against those offenses in the NFC North. Now moving on to Halbert and the Bears. A little bit of a surprise pick here.
Okay, so I feel like the Bears had the great defense a couple years ago, I think 2 years ago, and I feel like people still think of the Bears as like one of the best defenses in the NFL, even though they still have Khalil Mack. I just feel like the rest of them, they're like Akeem Hicks, he regressed a lot, and so the front line is not as good, and also their competition. So like the Packers, I think their offense is gonna be about just as good. Vikings, even though they lost Stephon Diggs, they're still great, and Detroit, if they have healthy Stafford, then they just don't have good matchups this year, and I feel like the Bears, it's similar to the Jaguars. They just get too much credit just from one good season in the past.
I disagree. I think the Bears are nothing like the Jaguars because the Jaguars traded away everyone on their defense. the Bears pretty much still have everyone left. Eddie Jackson is young. Roquan Smith is young. And they're only getting better. Those are Pro Bowl caliber players. Obviously, they still have Khalil Mack, Kendall Fuller. So I think this defense, they're still a starting defense in fantasy. I mean, the Bears may not be a great team this year, but I don't think that defense is going to hold them back at all.
I agree with Baskin there. Also, one name that didn't come up was Robert Quinn.
Yeah, that was a good pickup. He had very overpaid, but I think he'll produce at least for 1 or 2 more years.
Exactly, and I think that could help that Bears defense just kind of sustain that success. So maybe they're not a top defense, but I think they might be a mid to low starting defense in fantasy. So now I'm going to say that my defense that I do not like is the New England Patriots. I'm sorry. Yes, they're still one of the better secondaries in the league. I can't argue that. They have Stephon Gilmore back there. They have the McCourties, Patrick Chung, as well as the second-round pick that they drafted at safety. But for me, losing Jamie Collins, losing Kyle Van Noy, and Danny Shelton, as well as Landon Roberts, I mean, that's not as big of a defensive loss. But you can't lose those big-name players who made a big impact in New England and still be that top 2, top 3 defense that they were a season ago. I still think they're a starting defense in fantasy leagues, but I also think they'll be on the field a lot more this year with that offense being – there's a lot of question marks there. So I just don't look at the Patriots as that top 2, top 3 surefire defense in 2020.
I'd be in the middle about the Patriots. They're a lower-end defense. I mean, losing Van Noy and Collins is big, but the Patriots have lost big linebackers before. They've lost Collins before. They've lost O.J. Mayo. Not O.J. Mayo, sorry. Well, what's his first name? To Mayo to retirement. I forgot his first name. My bad, Patriots fan. But Dante Hightower has also been injured, and the Patriots have lost Chandler Jones. That's who I was thinking of. Chandler Jones to the Arizona Cardinals. So the Patriots continually, they kind of lose players. They get new ones. It's kind of like more of a system fit. So I think the Patriots defense will still be solid, but I wouldn't take them in I don't know, the 12th or 13th round, maybe the 15th or 16th round in your fantasy football draft this year.
Yeah, they are being drafted high for defense, but their pass rush this year is going to be better than it has for at least a while. They added Josh Ush in the draft, Chase Winovich, who is
I don't know if it's
player. I don't know. Yeah, I just think with that pass rush, their lack of linebackers isn't going to affect them as much as people think. I think they still have the best secondary in the league, in my opinion. Maybe a little biased, but I think they'll still play at a top level for at least against some of the teams that they play.
Well, that's great. That's going to round out our defensive fantasy video. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe.
Please be sure to check out the kicker video. That'll be the next video coming out. And as much as I know you guys want to watch what we feel about the kickers, so please check that one out.
As Baskin said, until next time, see you.